Ladies and gentlemen, we've got multiple years of drought and bushfires on the eastern seaboard. The Amazon's burning down. Hong Kong is under siege. And the democratic foundations of the United Kingdom are burning to the ground. Well, it's incredibly hard not to get dragged down with challenges that are in front of us and the negative image that comes out of the 24-hour news cycle. I'm here today to give you a different narrative. I've had the extremely fortunate opportunity to go around the world in the last 2 years and see that the Australian agricultural industry is one of the most exciting industries around the world. I see Australia as being the future leader in sustainable food production, and for us to be able to get to a $100 billion industry by 2030. So I give you my promise that I'm going to do everything that I can to get us to that position. But there's no way I can do it alone. And we need to absolutely be maximising on our potential. And at this point in time, we're a long way from it. So in the next 15 minutes, we're going to run through what I think are some of the solutions to giving the Australian agricultural industry the ability to maximise on our productive potential. After going around the world, I've pulled in information from all different farmers, engineers, research bodies to create 5 steps that farmers can analyse and then implement soil amelioration on their properties. I'll give you a framework of where we are right at this point in time and where we're going to be going for the next 10 to 15 years. So I'm going to ask for a contribution from the crowd. I want someone to have a stab at telling us what percentage of Australian soils have single or multiple soil constraints. Can someone just throw out what they think it might be? Mr. Fowler, well done. So 77% of Australian soils, farming soils, have single or multiple soil constraints. And this is a farm gate loss potential of $2 billion per year. And this is a big driver behind why Australia is reaching a measly 50% of our rain-fed potential for grain production. So if we look at if we look at a photo of Australia and you look at Sodic soils, makes up almost 100% of our cropping regions and our productive regions. So from what we were seeing on farm and what I've seen speaking to people around Australia, the answer is under our feet. Soil amelioration is one way that we can get to this, reaching our productive potential and capturing this $2 billion that we're losing every year. So subsoil amelioration, as we're now trialling, is a deep placement of organic amendments to change the physical, biological and chemical components of the soil to essentially turn our subsoils into topsoil. So we've got enough information now. Guys like Yallock Estate, Western Melbourne, are consistently, over a 10-year average, getting a 25% boost to their grain yields. And in some of the pilot research, the benefits are lasting for 20 years. So, into the meat of it. The 5 steps that I believe will drive us into the future. Number one, and this is technology that's come online in Australia in the last 6 months, and from the investigations I've done around the world, I'm massively excited about where we are at this point. Soil characterisation was always a massively expensive exercise, and now, due to some of these technologies, farmers are able to access it for a reasonably affordable rate. So Austria's topsoil mapper, California's Trimble's soils information systems gives us the ability to zonally map our subsoils. And then we can use information such as satellite NDVI, gives us in-crop, in-season feedback about if we're getting waterlogging issues. And then we overlay that with farmer intuition and ground truthing. And then we'll use harvest yield monitor data as the cream that will tell us exactly what's happening. So here's me on a little gator with the topsoil mapper on the front. And this is just one of the EC maps that it spits out to give us the ability to see what's happening in the subsoils. Number two, some of the most successful farmers in the world are integrating research into their farm to know what they're going to be doing management-wise the next year, 2 years, 3 years, by integrating research that gives them a pilot for helping them to make decisions into the future. Like Graham Hand says, if in doubt, trial it out. And it's the best way to see what works under your climatic conditions and under your soil type. Oh, go back one. So Bonnie and Kenny Miller from North Dakota, they work with some of the preeminent scientists in this field, and they've integrated research incredibly well. When I drove through their farm, he'd point out a paddock, and in every paddock there'd be some sort of trial going on. And what he's moved all the way from cropping, irrigated cropping, dryland cropping, through to livestock, because he worked out the best way to build his soils and have a profitable business is through growing pastures, both irrigated and dryland, and moving back towards perennial systems. You can see a very, very happy Kenny Miller getting shadowed by his cover crop on the left, and some very happy cows, fat and happy cows, about to move to their next cell on the right. So, this is a boring one, but it's one we've all got to do. We've got to know our numbers. If we're going to model potential interventions such as subsoil amelioration or any different management change that you want to make in your business, then you should be going and having all your information to be able to plug in and do modified internal rates of returns on what your business would look like in 10 years' time if we changed X or Y. Because we have endless options of where to invest our capital, and a technology such as soil amelioration is just one of them, and we want to go in informed. And like the guys at PAMI said to me, they said, James, if you want to be in innovation and innovation agriculture, you've got to fail small, fail often, and fail on screen. And I've added to that fail on spreadsheet, because I think it's massively important for us modelling where we're going to be going in the future. All right, now the fun bit, because all farmers like to burn diesel and build gear. So machinery was really good fun travelling around the world, seeing what we can do to bring back, what information we could bring back to build machinery back here. So anything's possible if you know your goal. If you've got the ability to use a local research body or get a syndicate happening, it'll massively lower your cost. And if you can adapt, merge, or reverse engineer existing machinery, like the Chinese do so well, you'll be able to minimise the cost and the risk of failure of a new type of engineering solution. A great guy I saw in Canada, Len Lescue, he's built 2 soil amelioration machines, And you can see him here with his second one. He was doing it for the remediation of pump jack sites. And he was getting massive results in getting those pump jack sites back to pasture lands or cropping lands through the injection of pelletised manure. And he was able to see his pellets still underground in that ameliorate chamber 5-6 years after he'd finished, all surrounded by roots with healthy plants above them. All right, now we're going to run through some of the different alternatives that I found around the world for doing this sort of technology. On the left, out of California, he's going ahead of permanent plantings for almonds. And then on the right is a machine built out of South Africa, and they're working on vineyards, going down the middle of the rows of vineyards. Two really innovative solutions. They're essentially using a fertiliser spreader, walking floor bin, and then adapting the ripper to them. Now the Germans, being the incredible innovators they are, always seem to come up with the next great thing. And this one's just on the horizon. Krohn in Germany built the Primos 5000 for the in-paddock pelletising of farm residue such as straws or hay. And I believe this is going to take us into the future. If we can go in behind the header, pelletise our straw and then inject it into the subsoils, it's a really exciting way of transforming them into productive soils. Here's some things that we could use on-farm biomass. Obviously silage choppers and bedding straw applicators that we could adapt to rippers to then inject on-farm biomass into our subsoils. France with Brochard, Elaine and I sat down for a day and we worked through solutions for adapting some of their machinery. A muck spreader. When you're not spreading manure, you plug on the ripper and go and inject compost into the subsoils. It's Elaine on the left. And then on the right, we've got the guys at Husky in Canada who'll build an in-situ biosolid injector built for a council in rural Canada. So the thing that ties it all together, farming system changes. Obviously, adapting to any new technology, you have to change your farming systems to maximise the potential for success. And here's a few of the ways of doing that. And a big one I see is getting towards perennial pasture bases and making sure that you always got ground cover. And for us in the south, getting sheep or cattle off the pastures before we bear it off too much. A great example of a really innovative farmer in South Dakota, Rick Bieber's reputation precedes him. Crops over 30,000 acres. They do livestock, cover cropping. They go straight in behind the header, bang in multi-species, huge cover crop combinations and graze them later in the summer or after their snow thaws out post-winter. So Rick's gone to the point where he's now trialling cutting out any nutrient applications. And this little drone shot says it best. On the left is his neighbour's farm. Same planting date. Way more urea. And on the right is Rick's place. And this is under semi-drought conditions. And it speaks for itself. So, where are we now? I was lucky enough to be approached by Sustainability Victoria when I got back from my travels at the Nuffield conference in Melbourne last year. And Andrew Dougal from SV and myself worked out a plan how we can build one of the first commercial scale subsoil amelioration machines in the world. So here's the machine working down in Freshwater Creek near Geelong on the left, and we had a little field day and we got over 60 farmers on a freezing day in Geelong to come and look at the machine, massively interested how they can get the next boost after no-till and these sort of things. So what we've done, a very brief thing we've done at home on our family farm with Dad's here at the front. And so in terms of integration of research, We've developed a really good relationship with Melbourne University. We had the ag economics students come out and visit us a couple of months ago, and we were their mock client, and they've just submitted assignments with basically the modelling for what sort of DSE increases would need if we did subsoil manuring under our costs, under our conditions. And they came out at about 3 DSE increase that we'd need to cover our costs and get 10% return on our capital. Some of the other changes we've made, we've been doing on-farm trials since 2016. We've been increasing our sheep numbers, only cropping the best country, and managing our grazing to minimise the risks of the hostile soils and waterlogging. So I thought this picture's a really good one. On the left there, 2016, we had a decile 10 rainfall October, and the barley crop, poor thing, died in its tracks. But you can see where we've done the subsoil manuring trial, the only part of the paddock that survived. And that's gave us a huge amount of energy to keep moving forward with this. And then this is one of the latest trials, and you've got the ameliorate band in the subsoil. So I can't wrap up with saying how incredibly grateful I am to the Nuffield organisation. If we want to achieve this goal of getting to a $100 billion industry by 2030, then we need these sort of connective groups like Nuffield that are going to take us forward. I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity they've given me, and also that Rural Bank, an organisation that's been supporting agriculture for a very long time, and to my family for looking after things while I'm away. And obviously there's an endless amount more, but I'll be here all day. So going to the future, where's the next step? I genuinely believe that we're going to be a leader in sustainable food production. We may not be the biggest, but I believe we're going to be the most sustainable. We've got 5 steps for farmers to take to work out whether soil amelioration's for them. And as more machinery comes online, with machines like the one we've built and a few more in the line, it's going to be more accessible to farmers around Australia. Some really exciting research coming out of GRDC. It's great to see the support they give for Nuffield. And that'll inform the amelioration of soils for the next 5 to 10 years. And then the next jump, and the exciting thing I see, is moving soil amelioration into pasture paddocks. Now that livestock's becoming increasingly profitable, boosting our pasture production is going to become more and more important. So, yibbity yibbity, that's all folks.